healthcare, there's been a lot of innovation. Can you talk to us a little bit about that, and specifically to children's healthcare and the
Sure.
overall state of children's health?
Sure, it really is an amazing time. And once again, we're curing diseases that when I started training in the 90s, I never thought we would cure. We're doing surgery on babies that are still in utero, still in mom. We're curing diseases right in utero surgery. There's something called CAR T cells, and probably people in the room know a lot about that. Taking a T cell out of the body, which is an immune cell, changing its configuration, attacking the cancer that the patient has, and injecting it back. And I'm very proud. Often in pediatrics, kids are sort of the tailing edge or the trailing edge. We don't get the technology until the adults sort of get it right. But in this particular therapy, kids are actually the first patients and benefiting. So on the one hand, there's amazing advances in science, and I could list others. On the other hand, back to this is a great place and a great time, there's still challenges for children's health care, right? It's not all rosy. We run a federally qualified health center on the East Bay. 98% of the kids we see are below the poverty level. A full third of those kids have experienced homelessness at some point in the last year. About a third of them report being hungry or going without food at one point in the previous month. So we've got all these amazing advances, but as a pediatrician and a children's hospital and a child advocate, we realize there's still a lot more to do. And there's also a lot of tension. Families are really nervous to come to our clinics now because of the current anti-immigrant tension in this country. So there's great things going on. Technology is pushing us. But as a pediatrician, I realize it's not always about these glitzy, high-tech things. It's about the basics of taking care of our kids, which is, I don't know if it's dogs or kids, but I think kids are our most important asset.
Well, can you do this T-cell thing on dogs?
We haven't tried yet,
Okay.
but that could be a trial.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Yvonne, you have been a disruptor throughout your career and scaled several different companies. Can you tell us a little bit about the challenge of that? Because I do think, we all think, entrepreneurial, as long as they get their seed round, their funding, it's just easy. And look, all of a sudden you're a very wealthy tech company. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the first thing is 90% of startups fail. And so I do think there's this idea that you raise your first round and life's beautiful and I can go buy my mansion and create a lot of economic issues in the city. Most startups fail, and one of my big challenges is our company's been around for a while and we haven't hit the rocket ship yet. This is our big year. Watch this space. But I have young folks who started working with the company who found the loves of their lives, who are now starting families, and I get the comments in my office. I don't actually have an office. I get the comments on the couch by the keg that they can't afford to live in the city. And so I think your point is spot on. They're saying, well, can I live in Sacramento? Can I buy a house in Sacramento and still keep my job here because I love the company? Can I work remotely? Like, how can we make this work? So, in terms of scaling a company, whether it's a startup or not, it's never an easy path. It never gets easier. I've worked with super large companies and super small companies. But I think there's three things that are critically important, regardless of what your starting size is. The first is focus. You have to have alignment and focus on what are you trying to do and why. And it's very easy in today's day and age to get distracted by all the things you could do. But you have to know, what are you trying to do and why? The how may change. We don't know the how. Technology is evolving very quickly. You may not get your customers' buyer values right, but you have to know what you're trying to do and why, and have alignment on that with the team. The second thing I think you need is balance. I think that's a combination of balance of how much time do you spend outside in the marketplace with your customers, understanding what they want to buy, whether they're consumers or businesses, and driving and cultivating those relationships. But you have to balance that with the time you spend inside, taking care of your people, building the infrastructure, and putting in place the things that are important. You need to balance out fighting the fires every single day with making investments for the long term. And I've seen all too often where people overtilt one side or the other. They're just running around chickens with their head cut off, and all of a sudden they hit a wall because they didn't do anything to scale the business. Or they've read way too many books or podcasts and they've done everything to scale the business and they have no customers. And so balance is a beautiful thing. Probably most important to me as I look around in today's day and age to scale a company is diversity. And when I say diversity, I mean diversity of perspective, of skill, of really every aspect you can think of, age. And the reason this is important, I think, is a few things. One is social consciousness. You've heard across the board from healthcare to transportation to building design, technology is seeping into every aspect of our lives. There's a lot of concern around what we're going to do with AI and machine learning. We need to have broad perspective, to have debate, as was mentioned earlier, to ensure that we're thinking about the consequences and that we're being thoughtful in what we're building, which is why I think we need more diversity in the boardroom, in tech, and in leadership to ensure that those voices are heard. We also need diversity because, quite frankly, there are no silos anymore. There's no silos in segmentation in how we're building our cities. There's no silo or segmentation in what we build. Quite frankly, as the Apple Watch design or technology, it's technology. But there's blending of technology in healthcare, in every single aspect. So you need people who understand different fields of study, who can integrate those things. Quite frankly, access to talent. Everybody should be able to achieve their full potential, and in today's competitive world, we need to look and source people from all over. So I think if you truly want to scale, if you want to be competitive, you want to have the best ideas, you want to have the best talent, you want to build a better planet, you need to hire a diverse team at all levels of the company.
I want to ask a little bit more on that. Does everyone feel they have enough access to talent on this panel? Now, Bernard, because she was talking about people and workforce coming in, I will say I did my own little research on Uber, and for 3-4 months, every time I took one, I asked where they were from, how many trips before their bonuses, all of these things to just learn about the company. And then later, I was told by a Lyft driver that I'm more of an Uber rider. I don't know what that means, but I'm going to stick with Uber then. So tell us a little bit about workforce, access to talent, if you feel, I want each of you to touch upon that, if you feel like we are doing enough to support our future here in San Francisco, future workforce.
I'd say that we are. I think it's about understanding that talent is everywhere and really thinking, so even when you think about recruitment, right? So some people will go, did you go to the top schools? That's vastly limiting in terms of talent. Talent could be anywhere and everywhere, and you need to be looking for it always. So if you limit your thinking, then you go to those top schools. And top schools, widely defined, so anybody can pick what they think their top school is, but think about all of the talent that's out there who could take your company to the next level. So you need to I had a friend say, open the aperture, so that way you can see the talent where it lies. And that's what makes this brand, I think, so interesting, is because we're a connector. We're providing opportunity to people. It's more than just getting from point A to point B. There's underserved areas that people, like before you couldn't get a cab. Like I was in New York before I worked here. And it could be difficult to get a cab in New York. It gave me a freedom to be able to get from point A to point B, and I had that assurance that I could call it up on the app and just get to someplace, and I get to make a new connection and make a new friend in the process. And so that's how we're also looking at diversity and inclusion at Uber. We are opening up the aperture so that way we go to the schools that people isn't on the traditional path, so that way we can find the best talent. And so whether people are limiting themselves to the schools that they go to, we don't. We're opening up the opportunity so that we can get the best and brightest, so that we can keep thriving and have the message meet the marketplace, because we understand the marketplace. But I think when you limit yourself, you limit your opportunities.
Michael or Emile on access to talent?
So an adequately trained, diverse workforce is vital to healthcare. I'm not sure if you've noticed, but the baby boomers are aging. The amount of resources that we're going to have to put into healthcare in the next 20 to 30 years is astronomical. And we know there's actually data that if your workforce can more associate with and take care of patients in a more culturally sensitive way, there's better outcomes. There's also new data that if your surgeon is a female, your mortality rate is lower than if your surgeon is a male. So we realize that a workforce is incredibly important, but the obstacles for people to get into healthcare are not small. Do you know what the average student loan debt of a first-year resident is in this country? About $220,000 of student loans. So putting those sort of financial limitations on people really make the workforce part a really difficult equation for us. But we at Benioff Children's Hospitals are committed. We have programs to motivate kids to go into STEM, to motivate people to become nurses and physicians, because we realize if we're going to hand the baton to the next generation, we really need an incredibly diverse and well-trained workforce.
Emile?
So, real estate industry typically used to hire in a very ladder way, meaning because the business is cyclical, you needed people with a lot of experience. So we used to go and hire people with a lot of experience and pay them well. Today, the company, we actually inverted that. I am hiring the young generation with no experience in real estate, and I am now putting them in the position of empowerment in the company. They're making decisions that typically I would have not seen be made until you have 15 years of experience in the industry. Because honestly, I put less value on experience and more value on somebody who's going to teach me what the future is going to look like, and that's the next generation. Fortunately for us, because of our market locations, that's where this young generation wants to be. And I've even changed the pay structure to where we compensate that group of people higher than typically you would see in order for them to be able to afford it. So we're really inverting everything and looking at it differently, because I truly believe that there is less value today in any industry on how things used to be and the experience that comes from the past, and more value on every CEO needing to have a chamber of knowledge around them, of people who are informing them as to what the future is going to be. So that's what we're doing, and we're being successful. We hire a class every year, and I think it's working very well. We'll see.
Great. So I'm just going to start with you again to get a little bit out of order, but want to ask all of you, what are you passionate about and what drives you? Emile?
All right. So real quickly, because I want to answer it in as truthful of the way as possible. I grew up in Beirut, Lebanon, and I lived 11 years in civil war. And I was asked one day a question by a reporter, and caught me off guard, and I thought about it. I saw a lot of community destruction, not concrete, but community destruction, including mine. Families torn apart, friends turning enemies. So my passion is to build communities. I want to see communities come together. I want people to come together. I want to see 3 generations live together. If you come to our communities, you will see. We work very hard to make sure that grandparents and grandchildren live together. Because I believe that the strength of a chain of family is 3 links together. We try to provide a place where the wealthy and not wealthy can live together. So what drives me every day is that. I just want to create communities to make up for what I saw 11 years in war.
Great, thank you.
Can achieve their full potential, and we can leave this world a better place. And for me, that really circles in 2 areas. One, in how we productively leverage technology in good ways. I get asked a lot of questions around how I feel about drones carrying explosives and killing people, and all these bad things that technology can do. And yeah, there are really awful people out there who are going to try to do that, and we should mitigate it. But I think we have opportunities, as we've heard, to use technology to save lives, to do great things. And so I want to be a champion of what's possible on the good side. I think diversity and inclusion for centuries has been out of balance, and that I have a unique opportunity as a female CEO, a female on public boards, a female leader, to help create opportunity and environments and engage communities to really move the needle in my lifetime, not just for my children, but for now. And I think our education system needs to advance to support all of that. And so I'm on the board of Harvey Mudd, but I spend a lot of time looking at education. It's not facts and figures our kids need to learn. It's how to be agile, it's how to think creatively, it's how to responsibly take empowerment. So those are kind of my 3 main pillars of making the world a better place.
Great, thank you. Bernard?
That's a really good question. So I'll tell you a short story. When I was a kid, I was labeled a talker in class. Get in trouble all the time for talking too much. And I think my passion and purpose is of people. I love to learn from others. It unlocks perspectives that I just didn't have before, because I'm only limited by my life and my experiences. But when I get to talk to other people, at least I get to live their experiences, understand maybe what they're going through, maybe what they're facing, and I can make better informed decisions, understanding people's perspectives. And so when I think about diversity and inclusion, because before I even got into all this, I was in campaign world trying to help other people. But the genesis and then the narrative has been helping people by learning perspectives and that connectedness, that glue. And so at Uber, it allows me to try to help people unlock perspectives, talk more, have those conversations. And it's a beautiful thing. You can just see the light bulbs going off when it really works. So I just think it's being effectively having a passion for people and trying to make those binds connect, and then we can kind of grow and unlock our perspectives.
Michael?
That's a tough one, but it's an easy one. Children don't vote. Children don't have political action committees. Children don't bring a lot of political power to the table. Yet any of the things we spoke about today are going to be taken over by our kids. And the fact that in this great nation right now, kids face enormous hurdles. The zip code into which you were born or raised can add or deduct a decade and a half from your life. That, to me, in the greatest nation in this world, is an abomination. That we still have social determinants of health robbing children of years of their lives. So my passion is to be a voice for children. And to quote Mrs. Clinton, it really does take a village. It's not just a children's hospital or pediatrician, it's elected officials, it is our schools, it is our parents. But I really believe, despite all the fog that's going on right now, we have to be a voice for kids, and we must do better.
Great, thank you. So, I'm sure that we'd all love to hear from this panel. We only go till 4 o'clock today, but I know we're running short on time, so I'm going to wrap it up, and we're going to do a little bit of a lightning round. So, describe 2 attributes of a good leader. Just 2 words, starting with Yvonne.
Open-minded and humble.
In the trench, in the trench.
Listen and engage.
Present and active listener.
Great, okay. Biggest issue facing your industry?
Is that one word, or is this going to be longer than one word?
You can go up to 2.
2 words. Drive value.
Time.
Disconnect between public and private agendas.
Okay.
Fear. People are afraid of technology, they're afraid of change.
What is your favorite thing about San Francisco?
Diversity.
That was mine.
Oh, sorry.
I'll share it with you.
16 years of Catholic education, I should have raised my hand. Diversity.
The weather.
Everything.
I really was going to say diversity. But I will say, my favorite thing is, I think feeding the diversity is the passion and the will to continue. We've got challenges, but my God, this is an amazing city.
Speaking of challenges, biggest issue we face?
Getting along.
Well, I think that affordability is going to be the biggest challenge for us over here.
Hearing one another.
Social justice.
Okay. All right, I'm going to close it up. I'm going to ask each of you to just leave us with a few words of wisdom and then you are done for the day, and we owe them a huge round of applause. Incredible, incredible speakers. And
It's an amazing time in healthcare for children and adults alike, but we can't lose sight of the fact that many kids and many adults still live in very austere, horrible conditions, and I think, once again, our country is better than that.
Bernard.
I would say engagement. Start a conversation, and I find stories are really helpful. People remember stories, and they're more impactful, and they resonate with you more. So start a conversation, tell a story. I tell stories all the time ad nauseum for my team, so they probably get tired of hearing it, but tell that story.
I would say stop listening to the news. This is still the greatest nation on earth, and this is still the place where the American dream can be recognized, and I stand in front of you as living proof of that. So just filter out that noise.
I'm going to build on the theme. To me, I believe we're all empowered. In today's day and age, we're all empowered to make a difference. So reach across, reach up, reach high, reach down, pull people up. There's never been a time when we could engage more freely with each other. And we're empowered to make this city, to make our communities, to make it better. And it all starts with you.
I was a little disappointed that your one word wasn't the chamber, but I'll just let it go for now. So, can everyone stay around a little bit? Because I think former Mayor Willie Brown wants to talk to everybody and make, no, I'm just kidding, Willie. He's actually going to buy us all drinks afterwards. But if everyone could stick around for a little bit, that would be great, because I know there's lots of people in the audience who probably have some really great questions for you. And unfortunately, with time, we weren't able to get in too much deeper, but we really appreciate your insight, your leadership, the representation of the industries, and joining us this morning at the Chamber. So thank you. One more big round of applause. Okay, you guys can stay seated for just a moment. We're going to wrap.